Gentlemen, if you can take your seat, thank you very much. My name is Mattia Romani. I'm a managing director at EBRD. If I can ask the Mayor of Trieste, Mayor Cosolini, to come and say a few welcoming words. Thank you very much.
Buongiorno, io porto il benvenuto della città di Trieste alla delegazione cinese, a tutti i partecipanti a questo incontro, ringraziando la Banca Europea della Ricostruzione e dello Sviluppo e l'iniziativa Centro Europea per averlo promosso e per aver scelto Trieste per questo tipo di iniziativa. Perché Trieste? Trieste perché è una città che dalla sua storia è vocata ad essere luogo di relazioni e di scambi ed è una piattaforma ideale per favorire l'incontro tra la strategia di investimenti cinesi e il sistema imprenditoriale del nostro paese, in particolare del nord-est del nostro paese e di un'area di Europa di cui Trieste è da sempre lo sbocco ideale, uno sbocco che attraverso il mare Adriatico si rivolge poi al Mediterraneo e direi al resto del mondo. Trieste in particolare perché oggi offre questa rinnovata vocazione grazie anche al successo e al potenziale di alcuni suoi fattori strategici di sviluppo. Penso innanzitutto al porto, l'unico porto internazionale d'Italia, porto ideale per favorire i flussi dal Far East e dal Mediterraneo orientale verso larga parte d'Europa, e questo grazie alla sua naturale, storica e crescente vocazione logistica, l'intermodalità con un significativo uso in particolare della ferrovia, grazie agli investimenti in corso per il potenziamento delle infrastrutture e quindi grazie a una capacità di essere effettivamente competitivo nei confronti dei porti del nord Europa lungo queste direttrici di traffico. Penso al sistema della scienza e della ricerca di questa città che ne ha garantito una fortissima proiezione internazionale, luogo di incontro, di scambio e di collaborazione fra ricercatori e scienziati di tutto il mondo in diverse discipline e che garantisce un altro tocco di internazionalità, di vocazione internazionale, di cultura internazionale ad una città che quando mi trovo a presentarla all'estero amo definirla la più europea delle città italiane, una città in cui si respira profondamente e fortemente un'area d'Europa. Penso alla grande opportunità che molti avranno avuto modo di vedere, che finalmente si è aperta ad una prospettiva di sviluppo della trasformazione del più bel waterfront che in questo momento ci sia probabilmente in Europa. Mi riferisco al Porto Vecchio di Trieste, a questi 60 ettari che rappresentano la storia della portualità di questa città e di una parte di Europa, ma rappresentano oggi un progetto in particolare di trasformazione e di rigenerazione urbana capace di attirare attività, di attirare investimenti. Un'area trasferita alla proprietà del Comune, sulla quale stanno collaborando le diverse istituzioni, la Regione, il Comune di Trieste e l'autorità portuale, ma sulla quale recentissimamente il governo italiano ha dimostrato di voler scommettere, stanziando 50 milioni di euro per alcuni primi interventi di infrastrutturazione e di animazione di quest'area, un segno di come il governo italiano consideri Trieste, il porto di Trieste e la trasformazione di Porto Vecchio di Trieste in qualche misura uno dei segni della rinnovata capacità di questa città di attrarre investimenti internazionali. E infine aggiungo, perché anche questo è un elemento estremamente importante per una platea internazionale, una città che vive e respira, grazie alla sua storia e grazie ai suoi insediamenti scientifici, una dimensione internazionale anche in termini di servizi, una città in cui fattori come sicurezza, qualità della vita e buon funzionamento, ottimo funzionamento dei servizi garantiscono condizioni ideali anche per l'attrazione di risorse umane di eccellenza che qui possono evidentemente trovare una dimensione ideale non solamente per lavorare, per vivere. Ecco, per tutte queste ragioni Trieste è orgogliosa di promuovere questo incontro, di ospitarlo in questo bellissimo teatro. Si candida anche a diventare in qualche modo un luogo di riferimento per l'incontro fra la strategia cinese e il sistema imprenditoriale di questa parte di Europa. Grazie e buon lavoro.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Now if I can ask the President of the Autonomous Region, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Deborah Serracchiani, to give us some welcoming words. Thank you.
Grazie, buongiorno a tutti. Before switching into my native language, I want to start by thanking General Secretary Caracciolo and the EBRD Vice President Pilou for inviting me here today to the launch of this conference that I truly consider a launch of a broader initiative for discussing ideas and alternative approaches, as well as for proposing concrete solutions to develop our economy, which is no longer local, nor national, or even continental in scale, but global. The southeastern area, where my region and Trieste represent a crucial node, is a perfect example to see how local marvelous opportunity can be exploited by Europeans and Chinese stakeholders and investors. È quindi con grande piacere che vi do il benvenuto in Friuli Venezia Giulia e a Trieste in occasione di questa importante conferenza organizzata dalla Banca Europea per la Ricostruzione e lo Sviluppo e dall'Iniziativa Centroeuropea. L'iniziativa centroeuropea che la Regione Friuli Venezia Giulia ha deciso di sostenere ospitandola qui a Trieste sin dalla sua nascita rappresenta per noi un prezioso strumento di diplomazia multilaterale, dando un contributo importante al progressivo avvicinamento di molti paesi dell'Europa sud-occidentale all'ingresso nell'Unione Europea. Per un insieme di ragioni geografiche, storiche, economiche e culturali, il Friuli Venezia Giulia è un ponte strategico verso i Balcani occidentali. Anche per questa ragione è stato scelto dal governo italiano quale capofila del pilastro numero 2, trasporti ed energia, della strategia macroregionale per l'Adriatico-Ionica, lanciata dall'Unione Europea nel giugno del 2014. Peraltro, questa regione vanta un porto, quello di Trieste, che storicamente rappresenta il porto più internazionale d'Italia, sia per i suoi legami strutturati e pienamente operativi con la Germania, l'Austria e l'Ungheria, sia per le caratteristiche fisiche che consentono di accogliere grandi navi provenienti dal Medio ed Estremo Oriente. Il tema affrontato nella prima parte della conferenza di oggi, il ruolo degli strumenti finanziari nella realizzazione di infrastrutture nei paesi dell'Europa sud-orientale, non solo è di particolare rilevanza, ma è cruciale dal momento che si propone di discutere come connettere meglio un vasto territorio che è europeo a tutti gli effetti, pur non essendo ancora parte dell'Unione Europea. Questo è un processo che ha tutto il sostegno di questa amministrazione regionale e che la Regione persegue con grande convinzione da anni. In questo contesto politico-istituzionale sappiamo bene come le aspirazioni politiche debbano essere accompagnate da un adeguato livello di investimento e naturalmente siamo anche consapevoli dell'attuale situazione dei budget pubblici europei, dove gli investimenti pubblici nazionali non riescono a coprire tutti i bisogni infrastrutturali che gli Stati esprimono. È per questo motivo che vanno esplorate nuove modalità di finanziamento, come quelle rappresentate dalla BERS, dalla BEI e dal Western Balkan Investment Framework, il piano Juncker naturalmente, combinate in un approccio di blending finanziario che dia attenzione soprattutto ai progetti di breve e medio termine, quelli più realizzabili e maturi, suscettibili di avere un impatto sulla crescita. In quest'ambito posso dire che il ruolo svolto dal Fondo CEI presso la BERS è quanto mai importante, in quanto sostiene la presentazione di progetti infrastrutturali presso questi fondi. Alla dimensione europea si affiancano nuovi percorsi, come quello rappresentato dall'iniziativa One Belt, One Road cinese, supportata dal Silk Road Fund, per il quale è utile che vi sia un coordinamento globale in modo da ottimizzare le risorse e le priorità. Queste iniziative, che comprendono sia una parte energetica che trasportistica, sono state create per lo sviluppo delle infrastrutture, incrementare il commercio internazionale e le nostre economie, e non solo per ravvivare i pur antichi legami storici che ci uniscono. Portano con sé una visione geoeconomica e sfide strategiche che sono sicura verranno affrontate in questo convegno. La prima: l'Adriatico si pone come terminale privilegiato per la Cina. Anche noi abbiamo adottato il motto Peaceful Rise with Low Profile. I nostri porti sono cresciuti, in particolare quello di Trieste. Servizi diretti a tariffe competitive per i mercati dell'Europa centrale, efficienza e molta capacità residua, ferroviaria e portuale da sfruttare. L'area del sud-est e soprattutto l'Alto Adriatico sono integrati nei principali corridoi europei e in tutte le dinamiche di governance macro-regionali. Questo significa stabilità, sinergia con le priorità europee e nazionali, significa collaborazione all'interno di una giusta dinamica competitiva. La seconda sfida: lo sviluppo e la prosperità economica rappresenta sia per la Cina che per il sud-est Europa la migliore garanzia per le rispettive stabilità regionali. Ecco che legare queste due aree in un cordone sanitario che inglobi anche le aree di maggiore instabilità non può che portare all'intero sistema una prospettiva concreta di sviluppo, un obiettivo da perseguire. Senza questa speranza sarà difficile vedere la fine del tunnel anche per quei governi che stanno lavorando utilmente per superare tutti gli ostacoli economici e politici che hanno di fronte. Dobbiamo essere capaci di trasformare un obiettivo di strategia economica in un obiettivo strategico per contribuire alla stabilità globale. In questo senso, noto con estrema soddisfazione come la Cina sia sempre più proattiva nell'assumersi un ruolo maggiore nella governance globale e regionale. La terza sfida: trasformare il progetto della Via della Seta in azioni e progetti concreti. Il governo italiano sta ultimando delle proposte coordinate che riguardano i porti dell'Alto Adriatico. Dal canto nostro posso dire che Trieste e la regione Friuli Venezia Giulia sono già pronti. Lasciatemi solo a questo proposito menzionare che il porto di Trieste occupa la terza posizione nella classifica dei primi 5 porti tedeschi e che ha un vantaggio competitivo rispetto ai porti del nord Europa di 5 giorni di navigazione. Sia a livello strategico che a livello tecnico, ciò significa per noi assicurare rapidità nei processi amministrativi, efficienza, tariffe competitive e infrastrutture già connesse al sistema di trasporto europeo. Ritengo quindi che tutto il sud-est Europa e l'Italia siano pronti per accettare questa sfida, dal momento che i tempi sono maturi per offrire delle collaborazioni concrete e dimostrare quanto può fare questo mare Adriatico, cui oggi siamo affacciati per la crescita economica e sociale di Europa e Cina. Ringraziando nuovamente la BERS e l'INCE per aver organizzato questo convegno, desidero formulare il mio sincero augurio per il miglior esito dell'iniziativa ed esprimere il sostegno della Regione Autonoma Friuli Venezia Giulia nel perseguire gli obiettivi nei prossimi mesi. Grazie a tutti e buon lavoro.
Thank you, President. If I can now ask Alain Piou, Vice President of the EBRD, and the members of the first panel to join us on stage. Thank you. Minister Del Rio is running a little late. He will join us in the course of the morning. So, Alain, the floor is yours, please.
To call the members of the panel. with me here. Giovanni. And the ambassador?
Ambassador.
Yeah, he's here. Voilà.
Minister.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good morning. I hope you hear me well. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank you, to thank very much the Prime Minister's office of Italy, the Mayor of Trieste, and the President of the Autonomous Region Friuli Venezia Giulia for their patronage and for their very kind hospitality in the beautiful city of Trieste and the magnificent environment around us, which I'm sure is going to favor good conclusions for our work today. Thank you to the Central European Initiative, our long-standing partner and pioneer of regional cooperation, represented today by its president is in exercise, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and its Secretary General, Ambassador Giovanni Caracciolo di Vietri. I will be very short to start with. We are zooming in today on a region, Southeastern Europe, with great potential, a region which has reached economic maturity, political stability, and where the cause of structural reform is advancing in all countries. Regional cooperation in that area is today a tangible reality. Even if I remember the words which were uttered once by a former Prime Minister of Italy, Giuliano Amato, it was in our annual meeting in Belgrade a long time ago. He said, the past is not always history. Actually, in the region, the past now is becoming history, and this is what is changing. There has been a visible improvement in the way we being the countries of Europe, the international financial institutions, the European Commission, other investors are pooling resources in support of regional projects, in particular in the areas of transport and energy, which are so critical to the development of the region. Important obstacles, however, to realize the potential of Southeastern Europe still lie in the capacity to prepare projects, very simply, and secondly, of course, the financing gap, in spite of all the schemes and mechanisms that all of us have put in place with the countries of the region. We need, in the interest of Southeastern Europe, to engage with the growing number of Chinese and non-European investors and financial institutions, such as the Silk Road Fund, present or wishing to be present in the region. You know that China has become recently a shareholder of EBRD, which is, of course, a considerable event for us at EBRD. We need to make sure at the same time, and this is the key, the core element of this seminar today, that talented entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized enterprises in the region benefit from that involvement, because there may be a fear that they will not benefit enough. They must benefit, and this must be at the core of our discussions. And now, without further ado, I would like to invite Ambassador Giovanni Caracciolo di Vietri, the Secretary General of the CEI, to set the stage for us, after which I will give the floor to our various panelists. Giovanni. It's working.
It's already on. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President Cher Alain. CI is really extremely pleased and honored to co-host, if I may say so, this symposium, this event today. We had that in mind since a certain lapse of time. encouraged by the words you quoted almost literally, which were the ones of your president, who in fact was flattering us in defining CI a long-standing partner, mind you, not donor, partner of EBRD, and a pioneer in regional cooperation. Of course, the crucial geographic and historical area on which we dwell and focus our attention is that of all countries which are members of CI and not yet either members or partners of the European Union. Out of 18 current members of CI, 8 are still out of full integration or partnership as the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. I think the core mission of CI, which coincides in a way with the strategy of EBRD, is that of completing as soon as possible this process of rapprochement, which in the last few years has known problems and difficulties, let's face it. The first roughly 10 years after the terrible period of crisis and wars in the Western Balkan countries were relatively positive in progress in structural reforms and development. The last 2-3 years have been marked by problems and open questions, of course, due to the economic and financial crisis at first, and more recently, the migrants and refugees emergency. We, of course, act under the authority of the European Union, and we want to stick to the directives and strategy, overall strategy of the European Union, which stays concerning those countries, that of the original enlargement procedures, which have been, and therefore strategically for infrastructure and transport, also the corridors which have been established within the European Union. At the same time, a number of initiatives, parallel, complementary to the enlargement strategy, have been thought and implemented from the macro-regional strategy of the European Union, integrating with, if I may say so, bottom-up initiatives coming from strategic areas and regions of the area. One of them is certainly the Adriatic Ionian, but it's not the only one. And other more specific initiatives, such as the recent Berlin process, the initiative launched by the German Chancellor to focus on investments and mechanisms of investments of the major European countries in the Western Balkans. An initiative which has started in Germany, which knows which has then known the presidency and of Austria, which is another leading partner of CI, which this year is presided over by France, and next year will be presided over by Italy. This is a significant aspect because the scope of our partners and reference points enlarges to major European founding members such as France and Germany, which is certainly very positive. In this complex framework in which the harmonization of the various European initiatives is already a relatively difficult and complex task, there are 2 points I would like to emphasize. The first one is the authentic best practice represented by our partnership with EBRD. In the last 15 years, and thanks to the generosity of the Italian government, after the creation of this International European Initiative Fund at EBRD, which was basically, I'm quoting by heart, but around 40 million euros of contribution. EBRD has financed projects essentially in infrastructural, energy and roads, and essentially in the partnership of the countries we are referring to for over 4 billion euros, which is an impressive multiplying ratio. And I think we will go on and continue with that. We just got news that there is an engagement of the Italian government to continue this important strategy together and alongside with EBRD. This is the first point, best practice, which we can follow, perhaps fine-tune for the future, but which is already a very good basis. The second totally new point is the interest expressed by China. We have the honor of having here the ambassador of China to Rome and the president of the Fund for the Silk Road, who came expressly from China to be with us for the area in the larger framework, much larger, if I understand, of the global strategy which China would like to start along the line which is familiar to all of us of the old Silk Road, of course updated at our times, and which is legendary for both our peoples, and certainly deeply rooted not only in geography but also in history. The idea of harmonizing those two strategies, that of an enlarged Europe which overcomes the difficulties of a strategic area such as the Adriatic one, if I may say so, the Western Balkan part, and not forgetting the Central and European countries, is certainly a challenge, and it's certainly something which we would like to pursue together. I will certainly not dwell now on the evident returns of such an interest on the Chinese side for the area, the returns for the entrepreneurial world, namely the SMEs, is precisely the subject on which we will discuss over the day. And we'll probably hear very interesting information on what the intentions and the overall strategy of China is all about. I also to add that this first exchange can be relatively useful on a reciprocal basis, because I think that we can put at the disposal of our Chinese partners and friends also the know-how and the experience of EBRD and of CI, considering that within this compelling globalization context, our polar star, we say in Italian, our reference point are still the principles, objectives, and dynamics of European integration. So in this process of reciprocal knowledge and harmonization of initiatives, that is certainly something very important and interesting. I would conclude this introductory part just with an auspice and a wish, if I may keep it like that this would not stay as an isolated episode, that it could become a sort of regular appointment in an area in Trieste, for instance, which is so central for all these initiatives, saying that and proposing to our Chinese friends and guests the full availability of CEI to serve as an antenna and to be at their disposal for all various possibilities. Yesterday we had, besides the mainstream discussions, the visit of the port and so on, also a rather interesting exchange among the Chinese delegation and the peculiar and very important world of academic and scientific research in Trieste, which certainly can bring about further collaboration and projects. I would stop here, since I think Alain is about to ask a number of questions, and we are, of course, at your disposal for the prosecution of this opening session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your very good, for setting the stage and for your kind words about our close partnership. Now I would like to give the floor to the President in exercise of the Central European Initiative and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, His Excellency Igor Crnadak.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the very beginning, let me start by thanking the Mayor and the President of the region for having us here in this beautiful city of Trieste, in this region. And also I would like to thank Ambassador Caracciolo for his opening remarks and for his work. And you know, this is quite big organization. I think we have done a quite good thing with having this in calendar of this year's activities of the CEI, and I'm happy it's coming such a big conference, important conference like this one during our presidency. So a few remarks. First of all, it's a great pleasure really to address this kind of conference, because this is you know, one of those conferences where you can see the substance, where you can see the real stuff is there, and that we will certainly have some good effects out of this. First of all, I would also like to, on behalf of Bosnia and Herzegovina presidency of CEI for this year, to thank Italian government, under which high patronage this event has been organized also, and Secretariat of CEI, and obviously European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who also is here today together with us. We also appreciate very much the participation of the Chinese representatives, official representatives, as well as the participants from the governmental sector and business community of the entire CEI region. Few comments. First of all, I think it's very important that today we have gathered around these kind of topics, because the world economy is still recovering after the deepest global economic crisis in probably last 70, maybe even more years. And of course, it's this kind of crisis that are challenges for the authorities and for business as well. And we have to use all our experience, not only to build a better economic environment, but also to prevent the crisis re-emerging again. And it is impossible to do unless we have this synergy that we are trying to also produce and to have here, synergy of governments, international organizations, international financial institutions, and other actors. So I think this kind of energy and synergy will ensure economic progress for the region, and that's why I think also this is a very important event. Second remark I would like to make on the need for interconnectivity, as we like to call it, because economic isolation belongs to the past, far past. And I think the last crisis also showed the necessity of every kind of cooperation. In this case, I would like to stress transcontinental cooperation. And I think Europe and Asia, not only with the geographical connection should build more on this kind of relations, should be certainly more infrastructurally connected. And I hope that today's activities will aim to this direction as well. I'm glad the Ambassador mentioned the Berlin process, because it is probably in the region of Western Balkans the most important process that regards the interconnectivity and in general work on the regional infrastructure. And it is actually also one of the proofs that we have right for high optimism in the Western Balkans region, because maybe for the first time, at least from the first time since the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in Balkans, we have had not only political, diplomatic support, but also a huge understanding of our internal political relations and a huge support on financial and infrastructural basis. So with this regard, I also would like to urge and also would like to stress the need to continue with this, not only between the two continents, but also within our region. And we will try to use our chairmanship, our presidency of the initiative to also strengthen this kind of approach. And the Paris conference, we will have the preparatory meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs next week in Paris. The conference itself in July will be focused on more connectivity among the countries, with particular angle for the energy-related projects this time. So hopefully we will have a successful continuation of this process next year here in Italy, in Rome, and I think this is also one important part of today's discussions. I think it is also very important to stress that during the very long period in the past, there was a continual involvement and real dedication of EBRD and its leadership in assisting most of our countries to get closer to the Western European economies, to Western markets. And of course, it also helped when we speak about political processes. Like I said just a minute ago, for us it was sometimes a problem because those two were fully disconnected. The political process and all the economic relations and economic processes. This time I think we have finally got to the position where this is now together, and it's helping all the peoples and all the countries in the region. And I think it's very important today at this kind of event, at least from our point of view, to stress the role of EBRD, because they really went beyond just simply financing big infrastructural projects, but also actively were supporting and are supporting today transitional structural reforms in our financial and other sectors. Also, there are very important projects at the moment, just shortly to go back to Bosnia and Herzegovina, also backed by EBRD, and we look forward to continuing support not only for Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also for the region and for the initiative. Also, I would like to say, especially as the representative of the country holding the presidency, I would like to praise our Chinese friends also for recognizing our region's potential, for development and for growth. And when the world's fastest growing large economy, and without a doubt in the near future the largest economy on the planet starts to invest in the region, there is a good reason to believe that we are on the right track. And I think that it is obvious it is not only Bosnia and Herzegovina speaking, but also the countries of the region who took a big effort to organize itself, to prepare the region for this kind of cooperation. In recent years, also China has become a prominent investor in large energy plants in Bosnia and Herzegovina, every year increasing its presence in the region as a whole, financing various transportation, energy, and industrial projects. So I think it is very important today to praise this and to say how important this is for us. I would like to also stress the need for us to continue to work in both directions. Of course, it's not only those two, but for this conference, I would like to stress two directions of good cooperation with Chinese government, with European Commission, combined. And I think it's good that we see these visionary plans also from their side. And I think it's important that region does what needs to be done in order to be very well prepared and to use in the biggest possible capacity this kind of approach. I would particularly at this point like to underline the importance of supporting the local enterprises and small and medium enterprises, and I think it is something that should get real strong focus throughout today's work. And I hope not only representatives from Bosnia and Herzegovina present here, but also from other countries that will get some new ideas, some new connections, maybe some first steps towards the new projects that will help develop SMEs in the region, and that will help develop the entrepreneurship spirit in the region. Maybe the remark I will make is too strong for the region, but I'm sure it is not too strong for the country where I come from. And that is that this entrepreneurship spirit is almost dead. And this is something that we in the Council of Ministers of Bosnia and Herzegovina and also in the other institutions of different levels in the country are very much worried about and are trying to change, especially the new governments and Council of Ministers from last year, because without this there is no real reason for optimism when it comes to economy development. And when we looked at the recent researches on the young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and let me share this with you. I think it's useful when we speak about SMEs, the new companies, the entrepreneurship spirit and ideas. Most of the young people said when they finished their schools, when they finished their colleges, that almost all of them said they would like to work for the government or for the city administration or for maybe some of them for local telecom operator. So almost nobody came out with an answer that she or he would like to use the knowledge from the school years, from college years, and the experience they got from there, and to try to start something of their own, or to a group with some also young colleagues and try to do something on their own, to develop some new business idea, or to try to do something of that kind. So I think and I feel this as our mission also when it comes to the role of the government back home to wake up, especially younger generations, in the way that this entrepreneurship idea lives a little bit stronger. So I would like to conclude my remarks by wishing you all a very successful conference. And I have to say that I've been so many times to Trieste and always had a nice time here, but I'm first time in this beautiful theater, and I'm glad we are holding the conference here. It's really comfortable, beautiful, premise, and it's a good really to be here. Once again, thank you, and I hope we'll have a fruitful conference, fruitful discussions, and that many good ideas and projects will come out of today's conference. Thank you.
Dear Minister, thank you. I would certainly second your words on the need for entrepreneurship. We are proud at EBRD to have invested almost 2 billion euros in your country in 60 operations with a massive focus on infrastructure. So this has been led by my colleague Thomas Mayer, who is there sitting in the room and is our infrastructure supremo. Now, I would invite you to prepare your earphones because our next speaker is going to speak in Chinese. And I would like now to give the floor to His Excellency Li Ruiyu, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the People's Republic of China to the Republic of Italy. Ambassador. Yeah. You need this. It's okay, because people are putting their earphones. So.
女士们、先生们 ，works， 非常高兴来到德里雅斯特，也感谢这个大区政府和德里雅斯特市对这次研讨会的支持。欧洲复兴开发银行和中欧倡议组织以"一带一路"和中小企业发展为主题，举办此次论坛，体现了对中意合作的远见卓识和支持双方中小企业合作的这样一种务实精神。我对此呢表示赞赏。企业是参与"一带一路"建设的主体。如果把"一带一路"比作浩瀚的银河，那么数量众多的企业就是点亮银河的璀璨繁星。"一带一路"贯穿欧亚大陆，连接亚太和欧洲两大经济圈，沿线包括了60多个国家和40多亿人口。2010至2020年，仅亚洲的基础设施投资需求就达到了8万亿美元，为各国企业开辟了一片新的合作天地。中小企业勇于开拓进取，运展灵活机动，转型升级速度更快，有自己独特的优势。中小企业积极参与"一带一路"，可以不断传递和放大经济活力和创新精神，给整个"一带一路"建设带来勃勃的生机。东南亚地区是丝绸之路经济带与海上丝绸之路的交汇点。意大利作为东南欧最重要的国家，被誉为中小企业的王国，拥有很多处于行业领先水平的优秀企业。近年来，中意中小企业合作不断发展，意大利中小企业的先进工艺、管理模式、品牌优势和中国中小企业的制造能力和规模效应相结合，不仅实现了优势互补、共同发展，而且正在成为两国经济合作的有力支撑和强劲动力。希望两国中小企业充分利用东南欧的区位优势，抓住"一带一路"的机遇，拓展合作领域、规模和深度，实现互利共赢。一是扩大贸易往来。中国是意大利在亚洲的第一大贸易伙伴，中国制造正在经历快速转型升级，对意大利出口正在向中高端工业制成品迈进。比如华为手机在意大利的市场占有率已接近10%。意大利产品质优物美，在食品、时尚、医疗、环保、高端制造等方面有特长，非常适应中国民众升级的消费需求。去年，意大利红酒在中国市场份额升至8%，奶制品对华出口实现400%的增长。目前，阿里巴巴网站已经入驻了北未来、费莱罗等90多个意大利品牌。下个月初，阿里巴巴还将向4亿多用户推广意大利制造，希望意大利中小企业利用好包括电子商务在内的各种平台，做好产品的推广。二是提升投资合作。 去年，意大利成为中国在欧元区的首要投资目的地。中国投资为意大利企业带来了资金，促进了就业，也为双方企业发展开辟了新的空间。米兰华为微波研发中心、都灵长安汽车世纪中心、博洛尼亚福田雷沃拖拉机世纪中心、山东潍柴入股法拉第游艇、中国化工入股贝内利等，都是双方投资合作的成功范例。意大利企业也继续看好中国的投资前景。在米兰世博会期间，很多意大利农业食品企业与中国省市代表团达成了投资合作意向。去年9月，费莱罗投资50亿元的生产线在杭州正式投产。中国将继续欢迎意大利企业赴华投资兴业，双方企业还可利用“一带一路”的建设的平台作用，积极探讨共同开发第三方市场。3是加强技术创新。意大利中小企业几乎每家企业都有自己的绝招。中国正在实行创新驱动发展战略，广大中国企业非常看重意大利企业的技术能力和成长空间，愿意开展各种形式的合作。近年来，双方建立了技术转移、设计创新、电子政务和纺织等合作中心，促成了500多家企业实行3000多样技术对接和达成400多项合作意向。不久前，中意政府委员会第7次联合席会议在罗马举行，双方一致同意应加强“一带一路”与意大利发展战略的对接，让中国互联网加战略与意大利科技创新计划携手前进。中国和意大利和东南欧地区各国家都有着良好的政治关系。双方之间的这个务实合作开展的也比较顺利。那么相信在这种创新机制的推动下，中国和这个中南欧国家的合作呢，可以发展得更好。女士们、先生们，当前中国经济平稳运行，处在合理区间，结构改革出现了不少积极的变化。国际货币基金3个月上调了对中国增长的预期。习近平主席说：“一带一路追求的是百花齐放的大利。”我衷心希望广大东南欧，特别是意大利的中小企业，能够抓住中国经济增长带来的机遇，加入到“一带一路”这幅百花齐放的美好图景中来，与中方企业一道拓展务实合作的增长点，助力中国经济转型升级和意大利以及东南欧国家的地区的经济复苏，为中意和东南欧地区的共同发展贡献力量。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now it is my pleasure to give the floor to the President of the Silk Road Fund, a fund with a capital of $40 billion, Mr. Wang Yanzi. And dear Mr. Yanzi, I will modify slightly the choreography which we agreed, because I think probably it is the time, without delaying further, for you, in your first words, to tell us very simply what is the belt and what is the road.
President. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, all the distinguished guests. It is my pleasure to be here. I should add to the previous speakers by congratulating the organizers and the government of Italy for arranging this conference, and also I think the beauties of this city and this marvelous theater would help us to make this conference very memorable. Again, let me begin by thanking the European EBRD and also CEI for inviting me to this conference. In 2013, the Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed the initiative on jointly building the Silk Road economic belt and the 21st century maritime Silk Road. which is commonly referred as the Belt and Road Initiative. I think we will have a lot of discussion on what is the Belt and what's the road in more details, I think, later in this part of the conference. The Belt and Road Initiative aims to promote economic and social connectivity between China and the rest of the world, in particular with Asian and European countries. The Silk Road Fund, as the chairman mentioned, with total $40 billion capital, was established to press ahead with this initiative. The fund is committed to promoting a socio-economic development of the countries and providing investment and financing support for the countries along the Belt and Road Initiative, mainly through medium and long-term equity investments in infrastructure, resource development, industrial cooperation, and financial cooperation. Since its establishment, the fund has succeeded with some element of good luck. 3 direct investments last year, namely the project's financing for the hydropower plant in Pakistan, acquiring Italian-based Pirelli together with Chem China. That was our first investment in Europe, in Italy, which I'm very proud of that transaction. And also investing in Yamal LNG projects in Russia. Southeastern European countries form the vibrant emerging economy in Europe and are the meeting place of the West and East, boasting distinct geopolitical advantages. Now at a critical stage of the economic restructuring and infrastructure upgrading, these countries have launched a number of production and infrastructure projects with strong demand for capital. Over the past 30 years, since China began its economic reform and opening up, China has witnessed significant enhancement in industrial size, technical strength, and international competitiveness, with its capital, equipment, and technology increasingly demanded worldwide. Combining these with the resources, geopolitical, and market advantages enjoyed by Southeastern European countries, I think there's a solid foundation for mutually beneficial cooperation between China and countries in this region. Southeastern Europe is certainly one of our priority market for us for future looking for investment opportunities. We have closely watched local projects and development, particularly in power and transportation and also in infrastructure areas. We are looking forward to market-oriented, in-depth cooperation to provide investment and financing support for infrastructure projects in Southeastern Europe through medium and long-term equity investments complemented by loans and other vehicles. SMEs are the most vibrant players in the real economy. We are looking forward to working with international and regional multilateral development institutions such as EBRD and also the local entities to find opportunities to support SMEs in this region and also including in this country. Like the EBRD, the Silk Road Fund is committed to encourage mutually beneficial cooperation and market-oriented solutions for such sustainable economic development. I'm looking forward to hear the discussions of this conference in depth on how we should promote mutual development and in particularly promote investment in this region. I think I stop here. I wish the conference a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President. And I note many similarities between the Silk Road Fund and the EBRD in terms of focus, in terms of products. And I would like to say that we are at the moment establishing a very close cooperation with you in order to co-finance projects. Now, I would like to ask a few questions to the speakers in a very simple and practical way, because we have to start working now after these introductory statements. First of all, to His Excellency the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Minister, what are you and your country expecting from Chinese presence? I'm asking you that question because I met recently with a prime minister of the Western Balkans, not your country, but another country which I will not name, and he was complaining bitterly that in spite of a lot of financial institutions in the region, he had managed to build only 7 kilometers of motorways in 2 years. So do you, for example, expect an acceleration of investment in infrastructure and more business for the SMEs in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
I think it's a very good, crucial, probably crucial question. And I think it's important that we find this similar line on the expectations and what's possible. And you know, we are all the public in general, without too many details, without going into many details, hear this story about big boosting economy of China that is huge, and then they think once they are here, that will resolve all our problems. They will build the roads, they will give money to the companies, they will make the region rich and without any problems in a matter of days, which is of course and obviously not the problem. On behalf of Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think you actually mentioned the key expectations. We would like to see more support on the infrastructural projects, because I think it is really something that has a realistic base, that has already some pillars established, and that it is not that we are, asking come and do something for us, and we haven't done anything and we don't care about anything. No, it's already, as I said, got certain pillars in a way that we have been working among each other in the region. Also, there are some funds that are already existing. There are some very good projects there, and there is a big need. There is a big need, and of course something that is important from our side, but also obviously is important always for the partners as well, is that the infrastructural progress will bring many more effects that maybe are not visible right now, but we have some, and let me also not name them, but also we have some, even though it's a good example, we have some countries in the region around us that have made a huge progress, huge breakthrough with building quite quickly and efficiently new highways, new roads, and this is something that really helps. And second thing is, of course, that I would like to mention on this particular issue, and the question you raised is that it's important that Bosnia and Herzegovina, for us, it's important to be part of this regional effort to build some kind of a, front is usually used in a negative term when you have an opponent. This time, I mean front in a positive way. I mean to find a common energy to work together because of the huge economy and huge potentials of China. And we had, I recently spoke to Ambassador of China in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we have we have come to a few examples where the cooperation was impossible because our companies that were in these discussions were too small. This production, even with a few of them gathering together, was too small for what was needed. So I think it's important, and we will try to do our best to be the part of this regional, global. Now we call it 16+1 operation, but it could even widen. And I think through this kind of channels of cooperation, we could also get some use from this kind of activities.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would add that we hope very much that your country will move with privatization, which is, as you know, completely compatible with the Dayton agreements. And privatization is something of much interest for Chinese investors, as the case of it was not a privatization, but industrial investment like Pirelli, which the president of the Silk Road Fund mentioned as far as Italy is concerned. I'm sure that Chinese investors might be interested in certain companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, I will turn to the ambassador of China to Italy. You described the intensity of the links between China and Italy, going down to the cappuccino in Beijing. In which way, Ambassador, could China and Italy use these close links in order to team up in Southeastern Europe? As you know, many Italian companies, in particular SMEs, are present in the Balkans, are present in Romania, are present in Bulgaria. Chinese investors and institutions are coming. How can they fit with Italian investment? Ambassador. The microphone.
I've noticed that many of you don't have earphones, so I think it's better for me to speak English. First of all, I should express my sincere thanks for all the participants involved with this initiative. And I will talk first what are the advantages we are having today, and probably then answer the question, how could China and Italy get together and try to fulfill those initiatives? First of all, I think the situation right now is that we have all the support of the government. For example, China has initiated the One Road, One Belt initiative, and many countries and the governments in this region expressed their desire to participate or to be involved in this initiative. That's very important. Secondly, is that I feel a very strong desire, both in Italy and perhaps in other countries, to have more cooperations in the framework of One Road, One Belt. For example, whenever I go to Italian companies or meet business people or people from other areas, they've all expressed their strong desire to have more cooperation in this framework. I think that is also important. Thirdly, we've already have many initiatives like this one, initiated by EBRD and the CEI. This is also very important because in order to make something successful, we need sort of support from the government, from the financial institutions, and also from actually all walks of life. Fourthly, in order to make projects successful to be implemented, we need financial support, especially financial support for SMEs. This is quite crucial, actually, because I believe that MSEs in many countries are facing the same problem, that they definitely need financial supporters supports, but sometimes the support is not adequate enough to give an impetus for their cooperation with the SMEs, for example, in other areas and other countries. Now, because of the One Belt, One Road initiative, and because initiative taken by EBRD and the CEI, we're ready to see that the support is already there. For example, Silk Road Foundation and initiative by EBRD and the CEI are very supportive of the cooperation between SMEs in different countries. Fifthly, I think in order to help the SMEs, we need a very good platform, because for those big companies, they have own resources to tap into the markets in other countries to find the business opportunities. But for SMEs, we have to admit, because of the small sizes, they can't support large scale sort of financial resources or time to explore and to find business opportunities. So initiatives like this to provide a platform for SMEs from all the countries willing to have more cooperation is very important. Actually, this year and last year, the embassy here and also Chinese financial institutions have held a number of initiatives to provide a platform like this to organize SMEs from China and also from Italy to discuss together and to meet and to try and find the business opportunities. And this is quite important. Actually, for the one initiative we held last year, 400 SMEs from Italy and also from China met together and tried to find their business opportunities. I was told that they've reached 70% of intention for cooperation. This is a quite high rate, and I believe that this kind of initiative will help concretely the SMEs ready to have more cooperations. And sixthly, and actually also is the answer perhaps to the question, that I believe that the economy in both in China, in Italy, and also in Southeastern European countries are complementary. We are developing at different level. So, for example, Chinese capacity of manufacturer and the sort of high quality of goods produced by SMEs in Italy, and also the design capability of Italian enterprises, and also the demand from those Southeastern European countries could work together to implement this kind of cooperation. For example, Chinese financial resources support and the capability of SMEs in China, and also the design and market experiences in Italy, and also the demand from those countries in Southeastern European countries, for example, the need for improving their infrastructures, etc. This is a very good combination. I think in this way, if we try together and use the resources together and try to explore business opportunities together, there are plenty of room and potential for great cooperation among those third parties. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to say that this subject is critical because after the various waves of Western European investment in the Balkans, in Romania, in Bulgaria, in the last few years, foreign direct investment has gone down like a stone in those countries. And therefore, Chinese presence is critical to revive the flows of investment in this region. Chinese, and I would say also other non-European investors, but of course China is so powerful as an economy that it can take a very important role in the region. President Yanzi, I cannot resist asking you a difficult question. In the region we are considering today, Southeastern Europe, there are many players working on energy, infrastructure, investment more broadly. The national governments, of course, first of all, of the region, bilateral donors, commercial banks, and many are present in this room today. And Intesa San Paolo has helped a lot with this conference. Of course, the EBRD, but also the World Bank and the IFC and national promotional banks from Italy, from Germany, and also the EIB, and of course, last but not least, the European Commission. These players, or maybe some of these players, see you with pleasure and expectations, but maybe also, President, with a bit of anxiety. So how do you intend to plug in? How do you intend to cooperate? How do you intend to become part of the club? President.
Thank you. Let me put this question this way. We are looking for partners. We are ready to work with partners. This is, the partners include multilateral development institutions, local conglomerates, local financial institutions. What advantage we think the Silk Road Fund can bring that we can stay longer? This is my advantage. The private funds and commercial funds, they have their normal maturity. But for us, because the purpose is to support mutual development, we can stay longer. And that's why I mentioned in my opening remarks, we are aiming at medium and long-term equity investment. Needless to say, working with existing players is very important because they are playing in this field. They know the situation, they know the rules, they know the customs. So fund a right partner is critical for us. So I'm ready to looking for right partners in this region. EBRD certainly is one, but we need more players. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, President. And in case some relationships are more difficult than others, I am sure that the Central European Initiative and its formidable Secretary General will be here to put oil in the wheels of cooperation. Ambassador, would you like to say a few words of conclusion before we move to the next seminar?
I think we should move.
Very good, very good. We are a bit late, but it has also allowed people to speak. So I would like to thank you very much for listening to this opening session. Thank very, very much the panelists and their inspiring and very practical statements and answers to our questions. So now we will move to the session 1 of this conference, which is working together to bridge the infrastructure gap. And this will be chaired by Alessandro Platterotti, the vice editor of Il Sole 24 Ore. Thank you.
Please, if you sit, we can start. Okay, thank you very much for being with us. Let me introduce you first. I'm Alessandro Platerotti. I'm the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Il Sole 24 Ore, the leading Italian financial daily. Talking about infrastructure, for Italian is a sensitive step, especially because, few countries above Italy experience the gap of infrastructure gap towards other countries, and especially towards developed countries. In this session, we're going to discuss about bridged infrastructure gap, Chinese, EU, and the financing panel. And the hope, our goal, is to fix some points, especially a framework in which we could develop a good collaboration or cooperation among EU and China. The issues are, well known: financing, a role of private investors, a framework of rules, especially on competition, on joint agreement, and especially on creating really a framework of cooperation in a cooperative manner. I want to introduce you Thomas Meyer, Managing Director Infrastructure of EBRD, Dash Magica, Director General of the Albanian Road Authority, Linda Sotiri, Director of the European Integration in the Ministry of Transport, Alan Baron, Team Head of Sector International Transport Relations, Zhang Jianping, Director of the Department of International Economic Cooperation, Institute for International Economic Research, Matthias Wojtok, Head of the Division Structured Finance and Joint Initiatives, North, Central and Southeast Europe, European Investment Bank. I will start with Thomas Meyer, Managing Director, EBRD. Please.
Thank you very much. The topic today is, of course, what kind of infrastructure gaps do we see in Southeast Europe? What kind of financing models should be applied? and how will existing infrastructure plans and investments in the regions be complemented by the Belt and Roads Initiative? Now, let me start by saying from EBRD's perspective, we are, of course, we have been a partner with China and Chinese companies for some time, because in a context of Central Asian investments, we have been investing in the Western China, Western Europe highway for the last 10 years, long before the Belt and Roads concept was formalized. And we have, together with the colleagues of the EIB, provided a lot of financing also in the Caucasus, and of course, lastly here in Central and Eastern Europe and Southeast Europe. Now, my starting observations would be, how do we bring this all together? There are, in my view, three fundamental considerations. The first one is about bankability. We talk a lot about projects, but in a sense, very often these are ideas or ambitions, but they are not necessarily projects. And we need to do more collectively, also together with the Chinese partners, the new Chinese partners, to bring more bankable, investable projects to the market. Because as was said before by various speakers, very often the expectation is that the Chinese do something for free, or they do something with which is fundamentally much more easy than working with existing players. The second point, general point I would make is compatibility. What do I mean with this? We have a very well-defined trans-European network plan that also applies to Southeast Europe and the region we are in. And I think it's absolutely crucial that all the players, new and old, take stock of this and work alongside each other. Because after all, this plan has been put together based on very careful economic considerations. And of course, when we talk about Southeast Europe, the Western Balkans infrastructure facility was mentioned in the previous panel. This is an example where all the major players, financiers, governments, and other stakeholders are regularly meeting to define what the priorities are and how to execute those priorities. And to be frank, in a market that, globally speaking, is highly fragmented, Southeast Europe is consisting of very many small countries. This framework is absolutely crucial to foster regional integration, because only through regional integrations do you create markets that are big enough for long-term outside interest. Lastly, I would say win-win. These projects with Chinese investment or with other investment need to be a win for those that invest and for those that are the host to these investments. And of course, in this context, let me be very blunt. We have been working in EBRD for the last 25 years in infrastructure from Central Europe to Central Asia, and recently in Turkey and North Africa. And what I personally observe is a disturbing phenomenon, and that is that when I look at the level of PPP activity and private sector activity in the infrastructure space, I see much more happening in Turkey, in Central Asia, and in the other regions. And in Southeast Europe, we still, the vast majority of the transactions we do tend to be public sector sovereign transactions. And I think what needs to happen now, in cooperation with the European Union, in cooperation with the new players, is to move to the next step, to have more commercialized infrastructure to bring the private sector in. And I think this is something we should perhaps be discussing. Thank you.
Dash Mirjika, Director General of the Albanian Road Authority. He's not sitting, oh, he's waiting, okay. Then with Alan Barron, Team of Sector International Transport Relations, DG Move. Please.
Yes, thank you for giving the floor now. I just want to start by saying one important aspect, which is at the core of the Trans-European transport policy, is that infrastructure is a key condition for economic development and also for growth and jobs creation. But what I noticed quite often when we have this type of conferences, we are immediately speaking about project, about financing needs. We are never speaking about if there is a need to build this project and now how the project should be built. Then I do think that if we want to question the infrastructure gap, in particular in the Western Balkan region, we should first look at the needs of the region and the way the infrastructure should be developed in that region. Therefore, putting first the project and then the question of the investment. As Mr. Meyer already said, we have already a very good framework, which is the Trans-European Transport Network, which covers the region, which has already set a certain number of priorities in the region in terms of network development. But along these infrastructure priorities, we have also developed a transport policy, which is now applicable to the EU member states, which is now becoming applicable also to our candidate country. And as you are certainly aware, we have certain candidate countries in the region. And I do think that this might be the first aspect we have to look at. It's the way to make transport more efficient before thinking building new infrastructure. We have a lot of examples in the past where countries have built infrastructure and this has not proved to be, let's say, really helpful for the economic development. The Western Balkan is a very peculiar region. It is embedded into the European countries. Almost all these countries have borders with EU member states. It is a region which is fragmented with very little networks, with a lot of non-infrastructure barriers that should be first removed before thinking about construction of new infrastructure. And when I speak about non-infrastructure barrier, you have plenty of them, and there are some countries in the region which are really suffering by the fact that there is no cross-border cooperation, that you do not have the same standards at the customs, that you are lacking coordination when implementing projects. I think these are extremely important aspects we need to think about before starting to question the capacity of the country to finance, the availability of additional funding from welcome very much the interest of China in the region. But before arriving at that step, we really need to work on the way we can make the investment much more profitable in the region. Just to give you an example, if you remove the non-infrastructure barrier, you have investment which are 10 times more profitable than making new transport infrastructure. And when thinking about transport infrastructure, you should not only think about the short-term aspects, you should think about the way you are going to use infrastructure, and you should think about the long life of this infrastructure, meaning that maintenance plans should be set from the beginning. And very often, unfortunately, this is not the case. And this is also the reason why it's so difficult to finance projects in the region, because the conditions are not met to make this investment profitable. Then PPP, private investments, are not, let's say, attracted to invest in the region. In addition to that, I think there's another important point that should be mentioned, is the fact that we have set a certain number of conditions for investments. And I think that it's very important that when we have new investors like China interested in financing projects in the region, these conditions are also well known. I think you mentioned the competition policy. I would say public procurement is also a very important aspect, which has I would say, a very strong impact in the way infrastructure will be carried out in the region. And on the top of that, we need to remind that infrastructure financing in the region is also, I would say, constrained by the fiscal capacity of these countries. We need to see that we had an example like Greece, which is still, I would say, on the top of our preoccupation, which has invested a lot in the past in infrastructure with a very high debt, and now we are paying the consequences of that. In that sense, I think that when investment is made, and I do hope that the support of the IFIs will be crucial for that, we are targeting the right priorities. And to conclude this introduction, I would say that we should not seek for investment at all costs in infrastructure in the region, but we should seek at investment at the right cost and for the right benefits of the region and of their citizens.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zhang Jiangping. No, don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning. I'm very happy to join this event. Actually, this is my second time to visit Italy. First time in Roma. And Trieste actually make me very impressive. So also I'm very happy to have opportunity to talking about the Belt and Road Initiative here. In first session, I'm very happy to hear here, not only EBRD, but also CEI, they are talking about the Belt and Road Initiative. However, in recent months, I also visited some of other European countries. I found that a lot of foreign friends still, use the saying of one belt and one road. You know that actually officially now in China, we already have our formal official translation. That is the Belt and Road Initiative. I think this is a very critical, correction, because firstly, this is an initiative inside of China's own strategy. Initiative means on the platform of international regional economic cooperation, all of those countries along the routes will actually belonging to a big family. We are demographic, and we should working together and should discussing what we want to do. Also, we will share the result. So that's the meaning of initiative. Also, just before our host asked a question that is, what is a belt and what is road? Actually, for belt, that does not mean security belt. Actually, I know that for a lot of friends in Western countries, you are not so familiar with a belt. But in economic geography, you will find that economic belt means that along the main transportation line and formulated industrial clustering and scale effect, and there are some of critical cities. They can play a very important role for economic development. And then this type of narrow economic belt, that's the meaning of the belt. And the road, that means from 21st Maritime Silk Road means that from the coastal area of China and go to Oceania, go to go to ASEAN countries, go to South Asia countries, and Western Asia, North Africa, East Africa countries, and then European countries. That's the maritime Silk Road. So I like to say that now we already very clear that is the Belt and Road means that not only one belt, not only one road. Tangibly, actually, there should be many roads, many belts, and they actually all of them can formulate a new, actually economic network and new type of, regional economic cooperation platform. So that's my understanding on the Belt and Road Initiative. Second point regarding, infrastructure. The Belt and Road Initiative means a very complicated, comprehensive, economic cooperation, including, mutual trade, mutual investment, infrastructure improvement, as well as people-to-people connectivity, as well as policy dialogue. in that process, you will find that along the routes, many countries actually lack of enough infrastructure. That means mutual trade and mutual investment would not be happened, just like today. For example, in India, more than half of people cannot access to electricity. And in Myanmar, more than 60%. And in Cambodia, more than 80% of farmers. That's why for our Silk Road Fund, the first project that is in Pakistan and hydropower station projects. So, of course, in European countries, especially in Central European countries, you will find that all of people can access to electricity, but we are still lack of improved transportation network. And that means many funds and capital will be needed. Here, I just like to emphasize that just Silk Road Fund, just AIIB, not enough, because you know that if you look at the platform of the Belt and Road, you will find that the demand, the capital from demand side, that's belonging to $1 trillion level. But if you look at the supply side, you will see that quite limited. So I like to say PPP model, private-public partnership agreement, this type of cooperation will be very critical. Meanwhile, all of those international financial institutions, including EBRD, including ADB, including WB, as well as Central America Development Bank, all of these type of financial institutions are welcome to play a role. Last point, I like to talking about the SME. This is topic of today. And I like to say those infrastructure projects, huge projects, actually will provide a lot of new opportunities for SME because there will be a lot of service outsourcing projects. There will be a lot of equipment providing and maintenance, something like that. So in this regard, I think that a lot of SME can seek for opportunities. Secondly, in case that this type of project could be implemented, and then that many trade firms and investment companies, they will feel that investment environment will be improved, and then they will feel that their trade and investment efficiency will be upgraded, and then they will be interested to have new investment and trade along the routes. And thirdly, now from Chinese side, we are very appreciate industrial park in different countries along the routes. Till now, actually already more than 77 industrial park established in different economies along the routes. Also, yesterday I noticed that here you have your very famous special free zone. In China now, we already started to have China's 4 free trade experimental zone. I think on those different special zones and industry park, we can concentrate SME, and we can formulate new global supply chain, and then our development will be promoted. The last sentence I like to say, my sense is that Trieste, this city is not so big, but very fantastic. Also have a lot of characteristics. At least I already feel that the power of science and technology, education, tourism, free trade, this type of things. So I sincerely hope that Trieste will attract more and more young Chinese students come here. Also from Chinese side, we also welcome Italy young generation to go to China. That people-to-people connectivity will play very important role for infrastructure connectivity, also very critical for SME development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Japan. It was very nice from you. We get the opportunity. Matthias Wojtok.
Is it? Oh, surprised. It works. Yes, thank you very much. It's very difficult to add something really meaningful to what my colleagues on the panel actually already said. So I maybe start off to say that I'm personally actually happy that infrastructure becomes or re-becomes a fashionable item. I mean, we have seen the European Union for quite a long time actually infrastructure being badly treated. There were always like politically more important types of investments that were favored, and most of the time the timeline of these decisions were guided by elections or other political events. But more recently, infrastructure became really a frontline issue. And that is particularly due to the failure of big pieces of infrastructure. We have seen in core economies big infrastructures failing, like electricity infrastructures or energy transmission infrastructures. We have seen difficulties in transport infrastructures. And suddenly, actually, people realized that most of European countries were actually, like the French would say, they were eating their white bread. So they actually were living on capital consumption over a lot of years without actually doing the necessary renewal investments in key infrastructures in Europe. And I think we have a common view on the infrastructure needs developed together with the European Union, in particular with the Commission, and Mr. Meyer and Mr. Baron already alluded to that actually the European institutional framework is quite aware of what needs to be done. The question is, who is initiating infrastructure and why are they doing this? Investments in infrastructure. Now, to address this particular investment gap and also see that in front of the background that generally investment capacity and investment activity in Europe was dropping to pre-crisis levels, is still not back at pre-crisis levels in 2007. The Commission, together with the European Investment Bank, launched the European Fund for Strategic Infrastructures, the so-called Juncker Initiative, or Juncker Plan. Now, there's a lot of questions about that, but the target is we want to try to induce a further more than 300 billion of investments over a period of 3 years. That sounds enormous, but compared to the GDP of the European Union, roughly 14,000 billion euros, that is not tremendously big. If you count 100 basically per year, I mean, that's on or around 1% of the GDP if that happens. Now, nevertheless, we consider that these 100 billion per year, might be proving very crucial. Why is that? Because the Juncker Plan, the European Fund for Strategic Investments, gives the European Investment Bank the means to go for risk profiles that the bank would not have explored without the support of the European Fund for Strategic Infrastructure, the EFSI. We go down a risk profile, or seeking risk profiles that allow private investments or increase private investments in infrastructure, in key infrastructures. And that is not only transport infrastructure. We're talking about energy infrastructure and also talking about social infrastructure, because we see a lot of investments in health needed throughout the CEE zones, throughout actually most of the European countries. May they be AAA rated or may they be more in peripheral areas and have a weaker rating. Now, why is this crucial? Because that is exactly the type of investments that will be needed in order to optimize the investment climate in these zones, in Europe in general. And I think all my previous speakers alluded to the need of PPPs. I mean, PPPs is a very dangerous concept in the sense that it is very hard to explain to a general public. You very easily are beaten up by, let's say, a more generalistic approach to finance and to cost. in order to actually being able to explain the efficiencies of PPPs, you need to have more than 5 minutes. And most of us who are confronted with this type of procurement, they're having difficulties putting it through political circles and to political decision-making processes. Now, quite luckily, in a sense, we have budgetary constraints that are driven by Maastricht criteria. And even though it should not be one of the main drivers of using PPP as a form of procurement, it proves to be nevertheless quite a, let's say, good incentive to do, let's say, off-balance sheet investments, properly structured. There's nothing to say against it if the risk allocation is properly done. But it is, of course, in our view, mainly it should be used in order to raise the efficiency of procurement and the cost efficiency in particular, and the affordability of infrastructure. So, therefore, if we talk about Juncker Plan, it is, of course, a need to find suitable projects for us to invest money in, even more risky money, and that proves to be difficult. It is easier to find them, actually, nowadays in the higher rated Nordic countries because the projects are there and we have a return of PPP models, let's say, in countries like Finland or Germany, because they just have enormous investment backlogs and they're now starting to invest into, let's say, privately financed infrastructure. That becomes much more difficult if you go to the Southeast European area because PPPs have either proven in the past to be horribly expensive, also because maybe the construction industry was not entirely, let's say, responsive about the need to optimize costs vis-à-vis public sites that are sometimes maybe not equipped to actually properly deal with complex structures of procurement. So we quickly find that if we are confronted in the Southeast European area with a big backlog of infrastructure investments, we also have a huge demand for advice from public sides of how to basically put projects forward, of how to bring projects to the market. Therefore, a little bit also because of the role of our front, let's say, credit officers, EIB is developing together with the European Union a scheme to create advisory services available to public sites, so the so-called European Infrastructure Advisory Hub, which proves to be highly demanded, and we really need to sort out how we can step up the services in order to meet that demand. But it is quite important, specifically in the context of our Juncker Plan and the expectations that we create with this in political spheres, to say that infrastructure generally is not of spontaneous generation. This is not something that you push a button and it comes across. We know that planning cycles and approval cycles, cycles of actually technically going through all the political authorizations that you need for this type of projects, they are long and they're sometimes quite painful, and they demand commitment beyond political or electoral periods. So there's another hurdle that we clearly need to face when we talk about infrastructure, is that the people who decide about infrastructure are very likely not the ones who cut the ribbon once the whole thing is ready. So there's a demand for courage, of course, to the political side and to political decision makers in all countries concerned. And of course, a message also and a request for perseverance of all the actors that are actually participating in bidding processes that are very often complex, expensive. But we need good faith in order to make infrastructure in the end affordable. And we have good examples. We have recently, together with IFIs, proved to be actually quite instrumental. And we have these good examples where we could advise, or we have advised, public sides in the procurement phase in order to use competition properly to raise the efficiency gains that you need in order to have it properly, cost-efficiently done. We have seen cost reductions through a cooperation with IFIs of infrastructure projects of about 40% compared to initial cost estimates, just because the private side was allowed to optimize the design of infrastructure to the real need of the countries. So I think I should stop here. I think you see that that EIB, together with other IFIs, together with the European Commission, is very much committed to the infrastructure investment question. We are putting in place instruments that allow us to take supplementary risks, and we try to enhance, through advisory services, the public sector capacity of procuring that. I'm interested to have a discussion afterwards, also to other people present, of how this can be done more concretely. And of course, I mean, I would be happy if we have a panel discussion also on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Claudio De Ecker.
Thank you. I believe this conference is quite important because knowing that I will come here, I asked around in the entrepreneurial environment, what do they think about this one road, one belt, one road? And surprisingly, there have been also several negative comments on it. Mostly the negative comments were two. One was, one road, one belt will open up our market to cheap stuff coming from China, penalizing us. Second negative comment was, China, yes, it's true, they invest, but they do everything themselves. They don't bring any addition to the economies where they go through. I personally completely disagree, and I believe that conferences like these ones are very useful to build up consciousness of what One Belt, One Road may represent. Progress cannot be stopped. Business development cannot be stopped. It's completely foolish to say if we open up or if we encourage our market to be free, we are penalized. Markets are free by themselves, and it's nonsense to prevent them to develop. And the second point I would say is that we see China more and more integrating in the global economy. And I get to the second point. It's not true that China works only upon their own resources. Of course, if they go to a Black Africa country and have to make some infrastructure, they preferably go with their workers and with their staff and with their machinery. But I'm a builder, and we are cooperating with China in different parts of the world, like Australia or the United States, where China has invested in construction companies and synergized their strengths with local strengths. I believe that there is a great opportunity to bring development to a lot of countries that need it. I'm actually very optimistic. I've been working all my life in Eastern Europe and Asia. I see a lot of positive energies in those countries, even in Bosnia. Bosnia, just to answer the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia, I believe Bosnia is a great country with a great potential. We see Bosnians all over Eastern Europe, Russia, being very successful in construction. Finally, to conclude, I really believe that what we are doing today is great. I've very much appreciated what EBRD, European Bank, and many other institutions have done in the last 35 years after, let's say, the Berlin Wall crash in those countries. I've seen them developing. Of course, through difficulties, what you said is completely right, but we have to keep on pushing and also avoid that the Western world is against development. This is really negative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. L'Indita Sotire.
Albania is as well a potential country to attract investment, and let me start by thanking the organizers, EBRD, CIA, for such an important conference, which we should make the best use in terms of better coordinating our efforts in financing and in the improvement of connectivity among the countries of the regions, through transport infrastructure projects and also in addressing the soft measure as very challenging, as Mr. Baron stated. We are aware that the overall financing climate is a challenging one, and the current level of investment in Europe is 15% below the pre-crisis levels, and we all have to tackle this investment gap. And for sure, we should not forget the main objective of this exercise, which is the connectivity and the development of our countries through this connectivity. Albania, as a part of Berlin process, is committed to fulfill its obligation in terms of capital investment and also in terms of soft measure implementation. It has become obvious by now that financing for our common project does not come cheap, or does not become available if we do not kickstart our priority projects development. An absolute prerequisite of that is the level of the project maturity, and of course, when we speak about projects, we mean cross-border projects and regional projects. One of such very important regional projects is the Adriatic-Ionian Highway, which, according to some very important development that took place last year, is now part of indicative extension of 10T core network. In the Albanian territory, this highway passes through section of Route 1, Route 2B, Corridor 8, Route 2C, with an approximated total length of 232 kilometers. It enters Albania in Murician and exits it in Girocastra, in Kakavia border cross with Greece. This project will provide a highway of high capacity and quality, which will connect Central Europe and Northern Italy with Ionian Peninsula via Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Albania, and Greece. With an estimated length of about 1,550 kilometers, among the benefits of this project will be reduction of heavy road congestions and bottlenecks, aiming to reducing travel time and increasing road safety. During the last decade, there have been around 350 million euros of investment in this segment alone, financed by our state budget and from other sources of financing, mainly EU funds, EIB, EBRD, and another 100 million euros is currently invested in Rogozina bypass, Fiery bypass. However, a total estimation of cost of upgrading this total segment is around 851 million euros. So we see how much finance gap is only on this segment. The needs for investment are categorized in short-term and medium-term needs, and only on short-term investment needs is estimated around 170 million euros needed, and in mid-term investment around 230 million euros needed. Together with Montenegro, we are granted 4 million euros for the feasibility study of the Adriatic-Ionian Highway. Furthermore, emphasizing our previous regards on the corridor standard approach, we support the idea of an Adriatic-Ionian multimodal corridor in order to meet the 10T requirements of a multimodal corridor, taking into consideration also that the port of Durrës is part of the core network and an important hub for the region. The multimodal terminal in Port of Durrës is operational and the roads within the port area are rehabilitated. The access road to Port of Durrës directly from Tirana-Durrës motorway is operational and we will soon start the construction of railway connections with all terminals in this port. Following the single sector project pipeline methodology, we have made application and have a grant now for the implementation of the project rehabilitation of railway line Durrës-Tirana and construction of a new railway line to Rinasi Airport. As mentioned previously, we are conscious that this project cannot be entirely financed through the conventional source of financing, and to address this, Albanian government has set as a priority the enablement of PPP models for the construction and the road operational through tolling. With the EBRD financing support, which I take the opportunity to thank, we have finalized a road tolling strategy aiming to determine a suitable tariff for roads in Albania and help the process of drafting and negotiating the concession contracts in general. In this regard, a memorandum of understanding is being signed between Albania, Montenegro, and the Chinese enterprise. And of course, we have also other Chinese enterprises interested in investing in Port of Shenzhen, in Arbri Road, and in other infrastructure investment as well. And we are very happy that we have their support and their desire in investing in our country. The project pipeline should be advanced to the project maturity stage where contemporary mechanism will be needed for financing. In addition to making the best use of existing resources, efforts should be made in establishing a regional coordination mechanism unit with a commercial capable arm that would bring together the efforts of multiple states in the development on the entire project development phase, cross-border projects as well. To boost our common objectives, also in the framework of the Berlin process and the connectivity agenda, the EU Commission has also committed themselves to facilitate the improvement of the regional cooperation and at the same time to contribute to the economic stability of our countries, aiding our objectives of reaching the European standards and fulfilling the EU accession criteria. We have more than once confirmed our strong commitment in order to deploy a wider regional approach in the implementation of the infrastructure investment and in the transport policy coordination, which of course are vital to ensure regional coherence and to generate potential synergies and to give the right signal to IFIs and to the potential investors. In order to maximize the benefits of millions of euros spent on infrastructure projects and to increase the competitiveness of the region, implementation of soft measures is of the same priority as the improvement of infrastructure. Currently, we are fully engaged to implement the soft measure agreed in Vienna summit, which address the non-physical barriers caused by bottleneck. Regarding the national soft measures, the implementation of the rail border crossing agreement between Montenegro and Albania as part of the Adriatic-Ionian Initiative project, both Albania and Montenegro are committed to sign all the necessary protocols within June 2016. A very successful example of an ineffective soft measure is the one-stop shop border crossing in Muriciani border crossing with Montenegro. We take this opportunity to reassure our commitment and our readiness in creating an integrated infrastructure and a competitive transport market in order to improve transport operation within the region and with EU countries as well. We acknowledge that investment needs are significant, but in the same time, liquidity is available and we are making all efforts to eliminate all barriers that do not allow these potential investments to be realized, and in the same time not to lose the strategic vision. Finally, let me express also on the behalf of Minister of Transport and Infrastructure, Mr. Haginasto, our gratitude to all our partners, EBRD, World Bank, European Commissions, and to all the other partners as well, for your continuous support and cooperation in the framework of connectivity agenda, which aims to better integrate the Western Balkans countries as well as to efficiently connect the region with EU. We are sure that this conference will be very fruitful to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we can open a session of Q&A, and I would start with Ambassador Gene Reichel, Austrian Ambassador to China. If he's in well, maybe. I have a second space for Mr. Battani, Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much then.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I'm very pleased to contribute just a couple of points to this very rich discussion. Let me first say what Austria's position is with regard to the Silk Road Initiative. When our federal president had his second state visit in China in 2015, it was actually the most important topic of discussion between him and President Xi Jinping. And Austria has since joined the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank as a founding member, another testimonial to the importance that we attach to the Silk Road Initiative. The Austrian Commerce Office in China is actively engaged with other chambers of commerce, and just a few weeks ago in Xi'an, they were part of founding a platform, a Silk Road platform of economic chambers. And why are we doing this? Well, because Austria has a well-established presence and expertise of working in countries of Southern and Eastern Europe and Central Europe. And we want to bring this expertise to the joint endeavor of the Silk Road Initiative. We hope to promote Austria as a headquarter for such cooperation, but we also hope to promote trade and therefore the economic chamber is particularly active. We see the opportunity for such cooperation in a number of areas: logistics, infrastructure, energy and environment, but also agriculture and forestry and financial services in particular. Think tanks between Austria and China are already in close cooperation on the issue as well. Let me very quickly turn to a second point, and that is the question, what could possibly the value added be of the Central European Initiative after we are all experiencing the value added of this particular conference, but what could be the value be in the midterm or in the long term for advancing the Silk Road Initiative? And as a result of this Austrian state visit to China in March 2015, Austria has been an observer also to the 16+1 processes. So I've seen firsthand the 16+1 mechanism, and I see what a tremendous benefit it is to advance the bilateral relations of the 16 member countries with China. But I think there is more that could be done if we could work on a genuinely regional dimension, so that 16+1 is not just a bundle of bilateral relations with China, but we can add this regional dimension. And in the discussions this morning, a number of topics were already raised by the distinguished speakers, where CEI possibly could add value. And I'm venturing this without even having had an occasion to consult with the secretariat of CEI. But sharing of experience, best practices, working on standards, working on making projects bankable. I mean, this is something that can be learned together, and this learning can be very effective. Learning can happen on environmental issues, on procurement procedures, on energy efficiency, etc. I see a lot of opportunities there, and I hope that these opportunities can be seized. I would like to conclude by congratulating the fantastic work of EBRD and CEI for this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, Mr. Baron.
Yes, thank you. I just want to reply to what Mrs. Ambassador was seeking for, regional cooperation between the EU and China going beyond the 16+1 initiative. In September 2015, the European Commission and China have signed a memorandum of understanding which sets a connectivity platform EU-China, which is exactly aiming at that regional cooperation, the region being Europe and the other party being China. We are currently working also together with all our EU member states, our partners in the region, in particular in the Western Balkans, the IFIs and the industry, which is very important also to have the industry on board. We are working on setting a regular exchange of information between the EU and China of what you mentioned, standards, public procurement rules, plans and programs, in order to ensure that if China is interested in financing projects in Europe or in the neighboring countries, we are sure that the money will go to the priority that we have all commonly agreed, and which will also be at the benefit of China in being better connected with the European Union. Therefore, this regional cooperation already exists, it has started, and I would say we will see in the coming months and years how far we can go into that cooperation, but I'm pretty sure that we will certainly have a very fruitful results based on that mechanism.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say something about standards, because EBRD will sign the first joint financing together with the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank on the 26th of June in Beijing for a project in Central Asia. And it's very interesting perhaps for the audience to know that in that specific project, the AIIB will use EBRD's procurement rules, our safeguard standards, and our disbursement standards. In other words, the newly set up Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank uses state-of-the-art IFI rules and procedures to use its money. And I think this is a fantastic piece of news, because many of you may have been worried about the way in which the new Chinese players would act. And looking at AIIB, I can confidently say that they are fully in line with what our requirements would have been. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jianping, you want to answer?
I think when we're talking about infrastructure in Central European countries, we have to notice that there are 16, economies, and some of them are belonging to EU, already becomes EU members, most of them, but the rest of them still, not the member of EU. That means for infrastructure projects, maybe in different economies, the rules and the regulations are quite different. But you know that for infrastructure, especially for those transnational, transborder, railway, highway, or, road, this type of things, you have to connect your planning, your strategy, and also you have to have, certain, I think that the rules and the regulation should be make sure, and then, that investors can, have interest in to go here. So in this regard, I hope that maybe CEI, this type of organization, can promote, planning, infrastructure planning connectivity in different economies, and meanwhile can promote communication with China's investors, with other countries' investors, international financial institutions, and then we can promote, infrastructure improvement. Meanwhile, I'd just like to briefly say that I have to confess, PPP model actually will deeply relying on, rules and regulations in different economy. And maybe that rules are very complicated, and in different countries can play different role. But generally speaking, I think that especially for developing economy, now PPP model already becomes a very important one. Especially in China now, we still need to have a lot of infrastructure, although our infrastructure already very impressed by a lot of foreign friends, so that they regarded China as a developed economies. But in fact, we are still a developing economy. So lastly, regarding, some of misunderstanding, on the Belt and Road Initiative, both from China and international society. Actually, many people just, reckon China's initiative, it will promote China's, overcapacity going out, or China will expand their international market share, something like that. I don't agree with this type of viewpoints, because the core of the Belt and Road Initiative will rely on mutual trade, mutual investment. Especially in the future, China's market will surpass the scale of market in the US, as well as in the EU, because we have so a lot of people, so a lot of consumers. And then we will import more goods from, EU countries, from the Belt and Road countries. Secondly, China's outward investment will go to, those countries along the routes, provide job opportunities, provide, manufacturing sectors development opportunities, and then those products also could be returned to Chinese market. And in that process, and then all economies can benefit each other. Lastly, we also should know that China's tourists every year go to, those countries along the routes. I hope maybe next year, in the near future, more and more Chinese tourists can come here, can go to Central European countries, and provide, development opportunities for local companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have Minister Vattani.
Posso?
Prego.
Mi presento, sono Gustavo Gagliardi e sono chairman del think tank COBORMED. Che significa COBORMED? Connecting One Belt, One Road to Mediterranean. È stata presentata ad un analogo hub di cui ha parlato il rappresentante della BEI, European Advisor Hub. C'è un altro hub importante ed è il Global Infrastructure Hub. È situato nel G20. Nel G20 e quindi avrà anche forse questo compito di affrontare i problemi degli investimenti e delle infrastrutture in ambito G20. Come think tank, aderente anche un po' al think tank del G20, agli hub dei G20, degli hub dei think tank del G20, abbiamo registrato questa proposta. La proposta proprio del Connecting New Silk Road al Mediterraneo. E qui stiamo parlando del sud-est dell'Europa in particolare. Beh, in effetti anche per dare... noi abbiamo presentato con il Ministero degli Esteri qualche anno fa, ricostruire il Mediterraneo. Praticamente ricostruire il Mediterraneo era un grande anello di interconnessione tra la sponda est, la sponda nord e la sponda sud del Mediterraneo. Il Mediterraneo sta in mezzo a 3 continenti, Asia, Africa ed Europa. Ecco, partendo da questa diciamo, proposta iniziale, stiamo lanciando proprio questo discorso che è stato recepito dall'Italia. L'Italia, mi rivolgo ai rappresentanti della Cina, porterà nella sua documentazione al prossimo G20 in Cina proprio questa proposta del Connecting Mediterraneo e One Belt, One Road. C'è un unico discorso sul merito della proposta e delle cose che stanno dicendo. Io credo enormemente a quello che hanno segnalato i rappresentanti cinesi della complementarità a livello planetario ormai tra piattaforme economiche e industriali. Parlare di piattaforme, parlare di investimenti di piattaforma, progetti di piattaforme, piccole, medie o grandi che siano, e anche il Mediterraneo insieme alla nuova via della seta è una grandissima piattaforma economica e industriale dove bisogna operare attraverso la complementarità dello sviluppo e nell'interesse di tutti quanti. Grazie.
Grazie a lei. Minister Vattani, thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to join my colleagues in thanking the governor of the region and the mayor of Trieste, and of course CEI and EBRD for this wonderful opportunity. I'd also like to thank the members of this panel for their valuable insights in some of the key questions which have been addressed today. Now, when we heard Mr. Jiang Jinping describe the Belt and Road Initiative, I mean, we clearly see that we are in front of a game changer. And in front of a project of such size and implications, we are all required to reorganize not only private business, not only industry, not only financial institutions, but also public institutions. And I have to say that in the last year, my ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has started a close coordination with the Ministry of Transport. I'm happy to see Minister Del Rio has joined us here today. And we also activated our diplomatic and consular network along the Silk Road to monitor developments and seek opportunities for our industry. Now, connectivity and infrastructure development are a priority for Italy, as you know, as they are for Europe. They were the focus of the SM summit, which was held in October 2014, and which Italy hosted in Milan. And however, although Asia offers tremendous opportunity for business, we heard it today, for Italy, this potential, we feel, is still largely unexploited. As of now, the Asian region only accounts for 10% of Italian exports and 12% of our trade. So this is a relatively low percentage if you think of the potential that the region has. So it's understandable how important it is for us that trade flows along the new Silk Road move in both directions. This is a very important point. Now, on 4 and 5 of May, this issue was discussed in these terms in Rome at the annual Italy-China Intergovernmental Committee. There was a visit by Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Wang Yi. The Chinese ambassador reminded us of this just a few moments ago. Now, because rightly, Mr. Matthias Wojtok rightly said that infrastructure finally has become a frontline issue. Just let me make just one brief point, and I'd like to pick up on what the mayor of Trieste and the governor of the region were saying before. Now, we have in our northern Adriatic port system, which is made up of the Italian ports of Trieste, of course, but also Ravenna, Venice, and the ports of Koper and Rijeka, an excellence in terms of infrastructure and logistics services and trade volume. Now, these are all core ports in the Trans-European Transport Network. Now, it is the port cluster in the Southern European region with the most international catchment area, with a great potential for expansion towards Central and Eastern Europe, towards markets that in recent years have shown much higher economic growth rates than those of Western Europe. So we believe that the North Atlantic cluster can play a crucial role in completing the last precious stretch, in particular Trieste, of the new Silk Road up to the very center of the European market. Now, the relationship between CEI countries and infrastructure development issues has been strongly developed in the last years. However, we feel that stakeholders in different countries need opportunities and instruments in order to link, to coordinate, to plan together. An occasion such as this conference, and I really would like to thank Ambassador Caracciolo and Honorable Mantovano and the EBRD representatives for this event. I mean, these occasions are particularly precious at a time when an integrated, synergic approach is necessary. And as Ministry for Foreign Affairs, we will play our part in this endeavor because we believe that the idea of connectivity is about more than economic, financial, and legal integration. I mean, it is also about relationships between stakeholders and the connections that allow this integrated approach which is necessary today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, in calling the end of this session, I just want to say a few words. I mean, in my professional history, I work in the States and in Europe. I've seen many agreements, projects, international development platforms. Sometimes they fail for money, sometimes they fail for political rift. I think now the issue is governance, and that from what I'm seeing here, this is going to be the most important issue. Things like this are important not just for Southern and Eastern Europe or for China. It's important for Europe. Building an infrastructure maybe can be rebuilding Europe, and that's my hope. Thank you very much. Now I'm calling on the stand Mr. Graziano Del Rio, Minister of Infrastructure, if he's already here. Yes, please. Please, we can go downstairs.
Grazie, buongiorno. Welcome to